Call the village board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
President Byrne,
Here.
Trustee Schwartz, Trustee Williams, Trustee Hebda, Trustee Cook,
Here.
Trustee Marquardt,
Here.
Trustee Schultz.
Here.
Motion carries. We have a quorum. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, first item, Lake County Stormwater Management Commission presentation of 2013 Stormwater Manager of the Year. The award goes to, you got an envelope? David H. Brown, our Public Works Director and Village Engineer.
Yes.
Thank you, President Byrne. My name is Mike Warner. I'm the Director for the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission. Since 2006, the Commission's Stormwater Awards Program has recognized outstanding efforts by organizations, communities, groups, and individuals for proactive projects and innovative programs to reduce flooding and improve water quality. We are fortunate in Lake County to benefit from the dedication, talent, and creativity of those we are honoring. This year's Stormwater Manager of the Year Award is being presented to Dave Brown, the Village Public Works Director and Engineer, who has gone above and beyond the minimum, led by example, and forged a path for others to follow. The Stormwater Manager of the Year Award recognizes an individual who has positively impacted one or more Lake County watersheds. Dave first splashed into stormwater management, sorry for that pun, 1 year out of college when the infamous flood of 1987 occurred. He was working for the Village of Arlington Heights, which experts have determined to be the meteorological center for that storm, which is approximately 10 inches of rain. Dave performed damage assessments. In his words, this experience taught him the value of stormwater management, or in that case, the lack of stormwater management. For the past 23 years, Dave has been involved in the growth of the village and the infrastructure within it, and he can be proud of the fact that Vernon Hills residents are relatively free of flooding. As the village's development enforcement officer, Dave is also the only male to have a perfect 100 on the enforcement officer exam. There were 2 women. And Dave took an active role in the Indian Creek watershed planning process and hosted watershed bus tour stops showcasing village projects as examples of what can be done to improve water quality and restore the natural drainage system in the watershed. Dave, through the village, has successfully brought in outside funding to implement innovative stormwater-related projects like the Seavey Creek Restoration Project, which has had several phases and locations that were improved. For these reasons, we are recognizing a true leader in local stormwater management. We are grateful for his leadership, professionalism, and down-to-earth presence. Thank you very much, Dave, and continued success to you. We've also got a nice award to hand to Dave tonight.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Pelican.
No, that's not a.
Great
that's
blue
a
Blue
heron.
heron?
Yes.
Oh, okay, like, you know, can you bring it closer to my good eye? Oh, yeah,
You'll see
okay,
them along your tour of the CBD.
okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they are kind of prehistoric.
They look a little bit.
Oh, they do.
I do appreciate it. Thank you much.
You want to say something?
Why not?
Of course.
Did I actually invite you to say anything?
He's got a mic, though,
Go
so look
ahead.
out.
If I could take a moment.
Oh, yeah, sure. Is that a complete suit or just part of a suit?
Well, the suit is good, the tie is good. Shoes, I still have my workman. I got to make it out in the field, so.
I've never seen you this dressed up.
wanted to thank the Stormwater Management Commission and whoever nominated me for this award. It does mean a lot. It does show what we've done within Vernon Hills. I've been here for almost 21 years now. We've seen the growth of the village. This board and past boards have done a fantastic job in planning our village. We have the big lake systems. We've kept a large buffer as we went through our growth spurts. This allowed us to have a lot of land and buffers so we don't have the flooding of people who have built on river systems. So I'm very fortunate that I work for this village. In terms of this, after our growth spurt, we've had all this land, so we've been able to go to Harvey Lake that was donated to us from Cuneo. So we were able to restore the whole 1 mile perimeter of that lake, and it's just a fantastic site now. As Mike said, a couple projects along the CV ditch. So we've really helped our green infrastructure during our planning years, and that's really good news. I really want to thank 2 specific people from engineering that have helped support me in the past, specifically Tom Bretman and Steve Masloff, our engineers, engineering techs. They're the ones that have helped us build the infrastructure. All the engineering is easy. It's really all the different details of making sure the ponds are built correctly, making sure that the overflow paths are there. And Tom Bretman has spent so much time, once we've obtained grants, implementing those and maintaining them. So Steve Masloff and Tom Bretman deserve a lot of the credit for this award. And I want to thank the board for just allowing me to be here for 21 years. So, no, they couldn't make it. They're busy at home with the family. So I just want to thank you for
All right, Dave,
So,
thank you.
Dave.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next, we have Lake County Municipal League presentation of the Cutting Edge Award to the Vernon Hills Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bill Gentes, and I am the Lake County Underage Drinking and Drug Prevention Task Force Project Coordinator. We have a loose confederation of 14 prescription drug drop-off boxes here in the county. Our chairman, Aaron Lawler, County Board Chairman Aaron Lawler, nominated the 14 communities for the Cutting Edge Award from the Lake County Municipal League, and I'm glad to say that we won. And part of the winning is owing to your chief here in Vernon Hills. And I just want to talk a little bit about the program and what the value of this program does. In Lake County, we have a network of, as I said, 14 boxes. We took 8,000 pounds of prescription drugs out of people's medicine cabinets. Prescription drugs and prescription drug abuse are one of the largest growing problems, drug-related, here in the Collier counties and across the United States. 8,000 pounds, and I want to put that in perspective. In the state of Illinois, the DEA took 23,000 pounds statewide in 2012. We donated 8,000 pounds of that. So 1/3 of the total haul from this network came from 5% of the population, which is Lake County's approximate population. I'm not 100% familiar with how many pounds Vernon Hills took out, but I'm sure it's a substantial amount. And these are things that are touching base with things that you read in the headlines. You read about opioid abuse and heroin deaths across the county. One of the major trigger points and one of the major initiations for heroin abuse comes from prescription drug abuse. So when you take 8,000 pounds out of the county, who knows how many people you save from heroin addiction. 20% of the initiations come from prescription drug abuse to heroin. So what we're doing here is amazing, and you're taking an enormous amount of prescription drugs off the county, and that's one of the reasons that you win this award. And Chief, I think you have to come up here. Now, this award is not as nice as the one that I was just awarded here, but it has a lot of feeling behind it, too.
Maybe Dave will lend me his for this.
That's right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you very much for this award. We really appreciate it. But the truth is This program was started, I'd love to be able to take the credit for it, but this program was started by a young man, a Boy Scout, who adopted the Save-A-Star program for his Eagle project. Several years ago, he approached us and asked us if we would be interested in participating, and he and Sharon Joseph got together and worked out the details to have the drop-off point established and the mailbox put into place. Never in my wildest imagination would I have dreamed that we would have collected so many prescription drugs from our area. I honestly thought that this would be a 2-week process, that the box would remain empty, we'd move it back to a storage room, never to be seen again. But 2 weeks after the first pickup, we went to move the box and the box was full. And it's a regulation-sized mailbox, it just happens to be green. So we emptied the box and left it there for another 2 weeks. Before the second week was up, we got a phone call from communications that the box was full. In less than 6 months' time, we collected over 300 pounds of prescription drugs. And that's not the boxes, that's not the plastic containers, that's only the pills, because we don't have the space to store all the drugs that were turned in. So we take them out of the boxes, out of the plastic containers, the prescription medication containers, et cetera, and we put them into a bag and a box and weigh them, and they're sent off to the DEA. The one thing that we are going to continue to work for, and I hope everyone our legislators will work with us on this, is to have another destruction point for prescription medications. Currently, the DEA only has 2 drop-off points in the United States approved. One is in Colorado, the other one is in Indianapolis. I'm not sure what the hang-up is or why we can't get it done, but it would certainly help, considering that we collected 1/3 of the drugs for the state here in Lake County. It would certainly be nice if we could have a drug destruction point that was closer to home. So on behalf of the Boy Scouts, the Save-A-Star program, and the officers, especially Sharon Joseph, I thank everyone for this.
Fantastic, great.
Next is a proclamation to Charles Kaminga in appreciation for his dedicated service to the Village of Vernon Hills. Is Chuck here?
No, Chuck, I think, is at home putting the final touches on his retirement plans right now.
I'm sure.
All right. Chuck Kaminga has been employed by the Village of, as a building inspector, plan examiner in the Community Development Department since June of 1998. In addition to his inspection and plan examiner duties, Chuck also served as an electrical inspector during his time with the village. He assisted with maintenance of various village-owned buildings and the village's snow fighting operations as a plow driver. Chuck served as a paid-on-call firefighter with the Countryside Fire Protection District. He was also an integral part of the team to help complete the new Village Hall and Senior Center in 2002. In his many duties, Chuck always served the interests of the residents and business community of the village by providing a high level of customer service and using a common sense approach in his daily interactions. Chuck applied the same high level of customer service with his fellow employees and was always willing to go above and beyond to help them. Chuck Kaminga will retire in January 2014 after nearly 16 years with the village. Chuck's a hard-working and dedicated employee of the Village of Vernon Hills, and you'll be greatly missed. The Board of Trustees and I do hereby express our sincerest appreciation to Chuck Kaminga for his years of faithful and dedicated service to the Village of Vernon Hills, and wish him and his family well in his retirement, dated the 17th day of December 2013. Okay,
It's very nice.
you gonna take care of this, Mike? Is he gonna be at work tomorrow? I like this, yeah. All right, Finance Director, Treasurer Larry Nakrin, presentation of Vernon Hills Police Pension Fund, Actuarial Valuation Report.
Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the report, I do want to stress that probably the most important function of an actuarial valuation report is to allocate our expense for pension contributions between the present and the future. And if we're too conservative in doing that, then that's a welcome relief to the future. But if we're not conservative enough, then we create a financial burden for the future. And that burden is magnified by the fact that the period of time to amortize the unfunded liability decreases each year, and would take an action of the state legislature to increase that. According to our private actuary study, this year our funding level fell by 2.1% to 68.1%. The key factor there was the Academy of Actuaries required that valuations be done using the 2000 mortality table rather than the 1971 mortality table. That hurt our funding level by 1.8%. The other big issue that affected us negatively was the awarding of a duty disability to Officer Sosnowski, and that reduced our funding by 0.7%. Conversely, we reduced the salary increase assumption from 5% to 4.75%. That actually increased our funding by 0.5%. Now, the other factor that should be taken into account is that when applying investment earnings, we average that smooth that over 5 years. So our assumption is 6%, but last year we had 9.59% return. That's $624,000 that'll be, of which 1/5 is applied this year and the remainder over the next 4 years. Our goal has been, in reducing our investment assumption to 6%, that we be realistic to slightly conservative. After our 5-year performance at this point is 6.06%, and our 10-year performance is 6.83%. So that kind of validates that we've positioned ourselves where we want to be. The required contribution is $1,291,079 in the current year of 13-14, and next year it moves up to $1,431,746. This is a 10.9% overall increase. Without the change in the mortality table, it would have been a 6.5% increase. Over the past 5 years, the average increase has been 5.8%, and this has occurred during a period when we've dropped the investment return assumption from 7% to 6%, and also used a more conservative mortality table. And it's worth noting that during that period where we've decreased the investment assumption and used the more conservative mortality table, we've been able to increase our funding level from 4 years ago by 3.6%. We also have it on receipt of the Department of Insurance actuarial funding report that shows us 79% funded and has a required $1,059,000. Now, they use a much more aggressive investment assumption, 6.75%, which you can see from the 5-year return would prove to be too aggressive. They also use two of the very problematic issues that are the result of Public Act 96-1495. They use the projected unit credit cost method to value assets rather than the entry age normal cost method. And that's a method that basically pushes costs to the out years. So it's basically a formula for creating a problem down the road. The other portion of the act they use that is harmful is they aim for a 90% funding rate level rather than a 100% funding level, which, of course, if you run into a major disruption like we did in FY 08-09, that takes you that much further away. So they're just trying to amortize to a lot lower level. Some points about what the contributions are going to. The police officer's contribution to the village contributes 29.9% of applicable salary to the pension fund. That's down from last year when it was 31.7%. The village's normal costs, that's the current year costs, are 18% this year, down from 18.2% last year. And the difference being the amortization of the unfunded liability. This percentage is 11.9%, down from 13.5% last year. So with that, any questions or comments?
Any comments or questions?
I'm sorry.
No, thank you for a very comprehensive report, and thank you for a good job of investing.
Well, I certainly appreciate the board that has been so proactive in viewing this. I mean, we can look at examples all over the place, including the state we reside in, to see entities that have not really thought proactively, and we've done such a good job, and it's a credit to the entire board that we've done such a good job of being so proactive in this regard.
How many towns are 79% funded?
This year I haven't looked at our comparables.
But we gotta be pretty close.
Yeah, I think in the past we've been in the top 10, 15% on the Department of Insurance's, actuarial valuations.
All right, Larry, well, thank you. It's, of course, we've been solvent for a long, long time, and we'll be solvent, going into the future. I'm sure the police officers appreciate the effect. Right, Chief?
Yes, we do.
Okay. That Chief, that was the right answer. Anything else, Larry?
I also mentioned that I have the report from House Bill 5088, the municipal compliance report, and that pretty much discusses some of the same issues I brought up. There we're using a market value to determine the funding level. So in that regard, it actually improved from last year, going from 68.1 to 69.5, because we didn't have the smoothing effect. But basically, the other points are redundant to what I just went over.
Okay, Larry, thank you. Chief?
Yes.
Concealed carry law?
Yeah, the village manager just asked me to give you an update on where we're at on this, just so that you have an idea. As you know, as we've discussed at previous board meetings, the Concealed Carry Act, when it was signed into law this past summer, but applications don't become able to be turned in until, applications are not being accepted until after January 1st. It's a rather long application process. There's a good 30 days in there for the local police departments to have a review of anyone that lives in our jurisdiction who is applying for a license, to review that person, check them against our local records, make sure there's nothing that would prohibit them by statute from obtaining a concealed carry permit. They do not anticipate the first concealed carry permit to be issued until sometime mid to late March, because it's going to take a while. The big thing for us is posting. The Act specifies dozens of places that are prohibited by law, that prohibit people by law from carrying concealed weapons inside those buildings. There's schools, daycare centers, museums, zoos, all government buildings. There's a whole list of them in the Act. But the Act requires that signs stating that the carrying of firearms is prohibited must be clearly and conspicuously posted at the entrance to those buildings, premises, or real property as specified in the section of the statute as a prohibited area, unless that building or premises is a private residence. So essentially that means all of our buildings here in Vernon Hills, all of our municipal buildings, golf course, everything needs to be posted. We've gone ahead, the state has approved the sign. It's a small 4x6 sticker which basically is a picture of a handgun with the red circle around it, says no guns permitted. We have 1,000 of those on order, and the village is going to be sending out a letter to the businesses in the area, letting them know the changes in the statute, letting them know that if they are going to prohibit weapons from being carried in their premises, that these signs must be posted, and we're going to provide the signs free of charge to anyone who needs them. We are working with the schools to make sure the schools are posted appropriately, and the park district to make sure the parks are covered as well. The only thing, Assistant Village Manager Kalmar asked me about posting the VHAC, since that's a village-owned site, and that would be a prohibited area by statute. The state, I did some checking, the state has not approved the posting guidelines for those types of public locations yet. They are working on them. The guidelines are supposed to be voted upon on December 23rd. And then shortly after the vote, we'll get the guidelines, and we'll work with the park district to make sure that our parks are properly posted. That's it, unless you have any other questions.
Have you talked with any of the the corporate and other businesses?
No, I really haven't. We didn't want to do that until we had the signs in hand, because the next question would be is how do we get the signs? And we want to make sure we have them in hand.
And when are the license is supposed to be?
The applications you'll be able to go online to apply on January 1st.
I know.
But they don't expect the first licenses to actually be issued sometime until the mid to end of March,
Okay.
about 3 months.
All right. So now, if you've completed the training course, you can apply now.
You can
After
apply
January
after January 1st. Yeah, then you have to complete the training program, you have to complete the background investigation, you have to complete the fingerprint check. Then they send that off they post it for the local jurisdiction, so we have 30 days then to object. And then if there is an objection, then they have the opportunity to have a hearing, and then they issue the permits. But like I said, they don't anticipate them being done until mid-March at the earliest.
What's your understanding, Chief, of how many FOID cards are already out there in the state? Is it 500,000?
I'm not sure of the number. It was in the newspaper today, and they did not publish a number.
I thought they did.
Now, the main problem with it is that we don't have access to the FOID card information. Obviously, people wanted to protect that because of their amendment rights to privacy. They didn't want the police department knowing who carried guns and who didn't carry guns because we might react differently. But now, it really does make a difference to know who has weapons and who doesn't. Especially in light of the Arlington Heights officer who responded to a call and was shot in the face, point blank, last week. It really makes a difference to know who has weapons and who doesn't. That's the next piece of legislation that I know that they're working on.
You mean at the federal level?
No, at the state level. Unfortunately, the federal, the FOID cards are state issued. The federal government has really stayed out of this in terms of licensing.
I believe there's only 3 states that require FOID cards or the equivalent
Oh,
thereof.
really? Okay.
So,
Okay, Chief. Well, Happy New Year.
Exactly. I hope it is.
Free it is.
Yeah. Okay, Diamond, Public Works Director, Village Engineer Dave Brown, Diamond Sylvan Lake Diversion Project Phase 3.
Thank you. This is more for informational purposes, and it would be followed up with one request of the village board. The project that was started, essentially 45 and 83 intersection, they took some sanitary sewer flow off of those treatment plants. The last 2 years, they've been working on extending the sanitary sewer down 45 to the Muni Golf Course. They've completed that phase. Last year, they started the phase of going across 45 from along the CV all the way towards Kids Castle. That contractor made it a few hundred feet. There are dewatering issues, et cetera. So the county and the contractor parted ways. They rebid the project. They have a new contractor. They're going to move forward right away. Just before Christmas is when they're going to get started, December 20th. So you will notice they've already started putting up their fence to block off the pathway that goes along the CV ditch. So they are looking to close that until, over the winter until approximately mid-April. They've coordinated because it is on Park District property. The Park District has been notified, as owners has permitted this. They do have easement rights to it. So really just wanted to apprise people that avoid that area. It is completely fenced off with cyclone fencing. You wouldn't be able to access it. It's a construction area, so please avoid it. In terms of trying to help them expedite the project so it doesn't linger into the spring months, they've requested on Saturdays. Our typical work hours for Saturday is 8:30 to 5. They're wondering and asking the village board whether or not they could start at 8 o'clock instead of 8:30 to allow them a little more time on Saturday to keep things moving forward. One other thing that the previous contractor found out was it is very narrow along that pathway, and so for them to move equipment and try to have two-way traffic back and forth, light poles in the way, that just doesn't work. So they will also be blocking off Sylvan, the pathway from Deer Path going east to the CV. So they'll block that off. So they would use that more for trucks to help support things. They're not looking to haul materials necessarily there. Most of that will happen from the north coming south to the project. But they'll have, it'll be directional board, so they need to get equipment there, boring rigs, et cetera. So there'll be a lot of activity over this winter in that area. So more just wanted to apprise the board of that and ask if the board would consider the request for 8:30 start on Saturday instead of 8:30. 8 o'clock start instead of 8:30.
Okay. Hey, can I ask a question? And this is pertaining to the second house in on Merrimack. Do you know, it backs up to the railroad tracks.
Okay.
Do you have any knowledge of what's in their front yard? This is going back many moons.
Oh, yeah.
What was that, a major sewer
It was
connection?
a sewer connection.
Yeah, it was a
Stormwater.
stormwater. A major stormwater sewer connection was right in their front lawn.
Smack dab
And
in
it's
the
got
middle
like
of the
about,
front yard.
you crawl down about, I don't know, 20 feet.
Big stormwater vault. in that area.
Yeah,
Is
I
there,
think it was a vault.
yeah, I mean,
think
do you know, I mean, can you check with Lake County? Is that still there, or was it abandoned? I mean, this is like,
Long time.
There's a
That's when we
number
had
of
all
them. There's
that
the one
way
up
back
on
we had
Grant
that flooded.
Place.
I'm sorry?
is it at a house?
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
They had a giant planter over it, and they decided, the new owners moved it, so I got a call. And I said, yeah, and look at your plat of easement,
Right.
Yep.
and it's right through there. So
Not that
there's a
this
number
would,
of them.
because this is all sanitary sewer.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's a force main, so it'll be a separate system. But
Okay.
interesting. Let me do some research on that.
I
Pretty sure
think
it was
it's,
stormwater, yeah.
it's certainly a planted, landscaped architectural type area now, Okay, anything else, Dave?
Is that acceptable to start at 8 a.m. on Saturday instead of 8:30 a.m.?
Trustee Markwart?
How many houses, you have the Park District side, but you're going across on Stone Fence. How many houses would that affect?
It will be on the west side of the CV, backing up to the Deer Path residence, and it would extend across, I'm sure,
Across the street,
60 homes, 50 homes along.
I mean, did you
put
put a
both
notice
sides in.
out to the folks that,
The pre-construction meeting was just, I believe, on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I've just got word of this, and so I'm reacting to it, wanted to talk to the board first. I
Right.
certainly can solicit the residents on it. Really, it's a balance.
That's my
Do we
concern.
try to expedite the
Why
project
don't we just leave it
versus
at
impact?
8:30? You know,
Well, the only issue is it's dark at 4:15, and if they're gonna work an 8-hour day, by starting at 8, at least they've got a chance to pretty much, and not create a dangerous situation of
Yeah, but
working
in
in
another
the
5
dark.
days, it starts getting lighter later.
Well, now, wait a minute. When we redid 45, they were working around the clock,
that's true.
right outside my window.
Yep,
So you want to return the favor?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, while
Yeah.
it was very noisy, the whole bit, it didn't last forever,
right.
you know, but
So how many weeks would this be?
This is going to be until April. The good news is that the windows would be closed at this period of time. I certainly can, as a rider to the approval, talk to the contractor and tell them, we're concerned about noisier type equipment. Could they try more setup and deliveries and quieter work to the extent practicable?
That's,
If that's the board's wish.
I'd be willing to go along with it if we can later revoke it if it turns out to be a problem.
That certainly can be one of the conditions.
And then I'd be for it.
Yeah.
yeah, as long as it's not disturbing the people, and I agree. Yeah.
So the
can
direction
always leave
is
it
to work
open.
with them as long as they do well and they keep things where it's at a level that residents aren't, our phone isn't ringing off the hook.
Great,
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your direction.
Best thing is not really off the hook.
that's a good way to put it.
Next item is on the vote agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through I?
so made.
Second?
Motion is second.
It's
Comments
good.
or questions on anything? If not, roll call.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye,
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Motion carries. Unfinished business, approval of Kemper voucher list of bills dated December 17th, 2013, in the amount of $9,112.99. Is there a motion to approve?
so made.
Second?
Motion is second. Comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye,
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Motion carries. B, approval of the December 3rd, 2013 Village Board meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
second.
Motion is second. Comments or questions? Deletions, corrections? If none, roll call.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye,
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Abstain.
I will vote aye. Motion carries. Approval and passage of ordinance number 2013-058. An ordinance adopting a one-year moratorium for placement of any medical cannabis distribution facility or other similar proposed uses in any zoning district within the Village of Vernon Hills.
So moved?
second.
The motion is second. Under comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye,
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
For the record, I'd vote aye. Motion carries. D, approval and passage of Resolution 2013-186, a resolution authorizing the village to terminate the municipal golf course 4 reservations license agreement and to authorize the execution of the agreement with Easy Links Golf, Inc. for a golf course management system at the municipal golf course. Is there a motion to approve?
so made.
Second.
Motion is second. Comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, approval and passage of resolution 2013-185, authorizing an agreement for Hawthorne Parkway pedestrian crossing signal and maintenance agreement west of the intersection of Hawthorne Parkway and Lakeview Parkway for Rust-Oleum Corporation.
Already there.
Thank you. In your board packet is a resolution drafted by Council Kinney, and it has been executed by Rust-Oleum. Essentially, it serves for the installation of a pedestrian signal across from Rust-Oleum. They would be responsible for all of the cost for its installation and maintenance, as it is a private benefit for them. As you know, they've acquired the parcels across the street, and they are currently using that for parking. So what they would like to do is have their customers and employees to be able to safely cross Hawthorne Parkway. In conversations with them, they do not feel that that their users will travel the opposite direction easterly to Lakeview, cross at the signal, and then walk to their business. In terms of the location, we've made it at the most linear area that we think people would be crossing at this location. It would be located just east of their easternmost parking lot. It would be not a beacon that shines all the time. It is actually pedestrian activated. Someone would walk up, press the button, and then it would alert people to yield, stop for users when they cross. So there is a picture on the screen, their proposed plan designed by Civil Tech Engineering. I've met with them. It would have advanced notice for pedestrian crossing. It would have all the safety enhancements that are required, and that is the plan in front of you. I do not feel that people are going to actually travel to the intersection to walk across the street, and so we're trying to make it as safe as possible for Rust-Oleum users. So I'm available to answer any questions.
What's the sign itself going to look like?
The signs on either end are the pedestrian crossing. It's a person with, it shows symbols with a crosswalk.
You said there's kind of some kind of flashing lights.
Yes, there is going to be one facing in each direction. It is solar paneled, and it is a activated light. I believe it is a red light, but I'd have to look at
And
yellow or
it's
red.
push button activated?
Push button activated, so it's only activated when someone needs to cross the road, rather than it functioning all the time and people get used to it and they don't obey the crossing.
And there's a battery pack in the,
And they would need storage, which would be the battery pack capacitor.
Trustee Williams.
So it's basically going to go where the crosswalk is now with the little sign in the middle of the street?
Very close to that, but we want to move it a little bit further east because, as you know, the greatest neat timing for crossing is in the morning for them, and that's the same time that everyone is traveling east, so that's our largest movement on Hawthorne Parkway is the eastbound in the morning. So we wanted to move it further east, so when people are coming around the corner, there's a little bend, as you know, as you get past the congregation, and as you traverse further east. We wanted to move that crossing further to the east of what its current location is. Maybe it's another 100 feet further east than the current location.
Do you feel it's really needed?
I think that they're going to, my experience, and we did allow a temporary crossing as they were building their previous parking lot expansion. So we did have a crossing there at that time. As I was observing users, they really weren't crossing at this crossing. They were just a herd that was crossing as one can diagonally, And at least this brings them to a location where people will anticipate they're crossing at that location and not just helter-skelter.
You think that's going to really happen?
You can lead a horse to water.
Exactly. But if this does work, then perhaps there should have been one at the school where the kids are always crossing the street to get to the park.
They have crossing guards.
I understand. I
Something to
understand.
think about.
We did though put up some signs though, for crossing for the elementary school levels that we've done that, and plus they have a crossing guard too.
Yes. And I guess a positive thing for them is that they do have a crossing guard that helps support the kids when they are crossing.
Certain gym?
Yeah.
Okay, that's been added then. Okay. Years ago, they didn't have a crossing guard there. It was a teacher
Well,
out
no,
there
the-
yelling, come on, get
All of
on."
the PE
Okay.
teachers handle that as a crossing guard.
Okay, Dave, I didn't know if you mentioned it or not, but is there gonna be like, pedestrian crossings, little stop signs, kinda like in the middle of the road?
There now.
We are going to keep the one that is out there currently in the
Oh, it's
middle
there
of the
now?
road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Similar to what we would see on Aspen, the smaller sign, or Hawthorne Parkway in front of the school. There is one out there. We're going to keep that out there to supplement the other safety measures.
Gonna cross-hatch stripe the walkway?
Yeah, we're going to cross-hatch it. We may even work towards having it a different color.
Well, how many people do you expect to park across the street? 100?
I believe their deficiency for for their parking is over 100 cars, is my understanding. So
And
it could-
what's the usable, number of spaces, where Opa's and Salerno's, is it over, it's gotta be over 100.
I
Yeah,
believe though
a
in the
couple of,
future-
it's almost 200 spaces, I believe.
And
Okay.
I believe that they will be employing, if I'm correct, 300 people.
Oh,
I
they're
don't
not,
think there's
okay.
300 spaces in
All
the
right.
parking
No,
lot.
no,
Okay.
that's correct, that's what
Right.
it used to be.
But with that said, do they have total access to the whole parking lot? Because they didn't close on the Opa.
You're right, not yet.
piece.
And remember, as a part of the construction project that's ongoing right now, they're adding
Some space.
21 or 25 spaces, I believe, in the lower level, and they have access to the Salerno's lot and the like. So once they move once they move the construction process along, they'll then have full access to the western parking lot underneath, the additional, like I said, 20 or 25 spaces, and they'll have a deficiency, as Dave indicated, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 and a quarter from what they previously had. So they've been whittling down the number. They've just run out of land. So.
Yeah, okay. Trustee Cook?
So this will be similar to the one that used to be on Butterfield Road there at?
A little bit
Except that
different.
it won't have the,
It will not have
the
the
lighting on the
pavement
street.
beacons going across it. It would have beacons on both ends of the street, basically on pedestals. It will have advanced notification signage that crossing is coming up. And then it would have the striped across the roadway, and we're going to talk to them about accentuating it to have additional striping or a different color to really, like I said, accentuate that crossing location.
David, am I correct, I would assume it's very similar to what CDW has?
It is similar to that without the center median. I did discuss the inclusion of a center median with them. I'm not sure if that's necessary, but the agreement, should it be required for whatever reason into the future, they may have to add a center median. But right now, given the site distances, I'm not sure if that's really warranted at this point.
well, I think we need it just because even though current law is that if there's somebody in a marked crossing, you're supposed to stop. That's the law. And when I do it, the guy behind me honks his horn. So maybe putting these yellow lights up there will help the guy behind me not go to the horn so quickly. So So I think it's a good
Current law
idea.
says you can't pass a stop school bus, but people do it.
Yeah. Well, it's got those, are these signs going to have that famous 2 words, "except you" on them, or? No? Just the imaginary ones, the implied ones?
Speaking of what Trustee Williams just said, I was kind of shocked. I saw your latest report on, what was it, Hawthorne Parkway, the traffic study. And you had some speeders, but I think you had at least one, and maybe there was 3 people that passed the stop school bus?
Yeah, I know there was one for sure
Yeah.
on those details. It happens.
Oh, yeah.
But now
And
a
they'll
reminder,
swear they
that
never
street,
saw the
that
bus.
street, you only have to stop if you're traveling the same direction.
Right.
You do not have to stop for school bus in the opposite direction on a 4-lane.
Right.
True.
Although I am the one that
But you get rear-ended.
Okay, so,
facing me.
do we have a motion and a second
My flash on, so that
on this
he
one?
knows that I-
Lisa? Okay, good.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Williams?
I knew she was going to do it first. Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Aye?
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Yeah, for the record, I'd vote aye. Motion carries. Under new business and community, are we going to closed session tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you want to state your name for the record, please?
I'll be out here in 1 second.
That's a funny name.
Continue. Sorry.
He's got
Something-
a
something
lighter
wrong?
way up there tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Those boys in your.
Can I ask a question? If we already addressed an email I got from the Taxman Corp. germane to the outlet, you know, where the employees are parking now for various businesses at the TIF district? As far as it being identified as, you know, a location for,
Oh, for the additional building on the north side there? Yeah, we've said no. There's no.
oh, we didn't address that at all.
No. I mean, they showed it in a earlier concept plan, but it doesn't exist as a lot of record. And we've basically kind of said it's probably very unlikely that we're going to, you know, consider something like that because of the parking issues that you guys have out there right now. But the lot doesn't exist as it sits today at all.
So going back when we did the development agreement or the original approvals,
Yeah.
there was nothing showing
No.
on any drawings.
There were a couple of concept plans that were floated, but none of the approved.
But it wasn't specifically,
It wasn't specifically approved. So,
really?
Yep.
Okay.
and again, you know, it's one of those things where, as we've told them, you have been so successful out there that you now have a parking problem, and, you know, the question is raised of, you then want to talk about dropping a building in there that could, you know, offload 35 or 40 spaces at that end of the project. So,
Well, you know, somebody, you know, and I don't know if it's staff or village attorney, Kenny, should probably get a hold of Margie Georgopoulos.
we've talked to her.
About this?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In their last day or two, or?
Maybe a week ago at most.
And did they discuss the fact that they sold the property?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You're signing some documents related to that in your.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I saw that here,
Yep.
but, okay, but that's off the table or back on?
I don't know. I mean, we've told her it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And it's not really a good idea.
okay.
And I think we've also had a conversation with the buyer also about the same thing. So we've
This
hit
guy-
both.
This Shaker, is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Trustee Schultz?
We entertaining new business and communication? Okay. I had a quick conversation with soon-to-be manager Kelmer about a follow-up on something I asked about a couple, 3 months ago. We had talked about, which was the off-street parking on Deer Path, but now it's throughout town, and it's gotten ridiculous. We allow people to park on aprons, parallel park to the road on aprons, and I would expect that we probably allowed that because people were getting their driveways resealed or whatever, and it allowed them to do that. But I'm seeing it more and more now, and it's gotten to the level now where they're backing their cars onto the grassy areas so that they can allow cars to enter and leave the driveway, so that they're really not completely on the apron. They're two wheels are on the apron, but two wheels are on the grass, and they're bumped up against the parkway trees. I don't think that's something that it's something I don't want to look at. And I don't see it being of value, especially seeing as how part of the reason we have no on-street parking overnight is to make it easier on the officers, to have clear lines of sight as they're patrolling through the neighborhoods. And I'd just like to know where we're at with the work that you were going to do in preparing this to bring back to us at a future committee of the whole meeting. Because like I said, in my mind, it's getting to a level of being ridiculous.
Well, and just as a preface, there's two items there with regards to the question. The first was the parking on the driveway aprons and what's allowed currently, and the chief can answer that. And then there's the other, that was the study for the parking along Deer Path, and Dave looked at that as a part of that.
Yeah, I have no problem in allowing people to create wider driveways. We've done that on a couple of specific separate instances, and that's been helpful to those homeowners. Again, it wouldn't apply to everyone because some people have too deep parking already, so they can get 6 cars on their property, 2 in the garage. Garages are for cars. You store it is for storage, but whatever. We'll have that fight later, Trustee Cook.
This is a new century. That used to be true. It's not anymore.
So anyway, the bottom line is I was wondering where we were.
What is that South Deer Path, back of curb to back of curb? What is it? Is it even, is it 28 or?
Back of curb to back of curb, it varies, but 27 feet back of curb to back of curb. You asked the question before as far as Deer Path and what happened. We actually, in that area, reduced the width of the roadway. We didn't increase it. You may recall that some areas were actually a lane and a half, and so some people were passing other cars when they shouldn't have been and creating a new lane. So as part of the earlier project, the full reconstruct, it was narrowed, and it's basically 2 12-foot lanes. We do owe you that report. I did complete a report November 8th, and we do need to get that into your hands. I think our expectations were we first were going to put in a transmittal packet, so I believe we'll work together to get that in the transmittal packet. You can read my report, and then I believe we'd be ready for a committee of the whole discussion.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Just in terms of parking on the apron, obviously if you see that with them parked on the grass, let us know because they can't do that. But right now, there's nothing that prohibits them from keeping their cars on the apron parallel. And the reason they do that, obviously, is because if they put their car in the normal way, they would be blocking the sidewalk. So, and then they get tickets for blocking the sidewalk. So the only way they can get that extra car in is to put it parallel at the bottom of the driveway. But they shouldn't be parking on the grass.
Which, by the way, is state law, not local ordinance, correct? The sidewalk?
It is state law.
Yeah.
We also have a local
Yeah, I
ordinance,
know,
but it
I
is
mean,
state law,
It
correct.
is state law also.
Correct.
And
Okay.
it was originally because of Deer Path being so narrow. I'm sorry. It was originally because of Deer Path being so narrow that it was allowed. And just gradually, as families grew up and their kids had cars and it became more prevalent.
I'm not just talking about Deer Path, I'm talking about the
No,
whole
I
town
mean,
now.
Now that,
Yeah.
that you've got kids
Yeah.
or grandkids, whichever it happens to be living there,
mean
and have more
boomerang kids.
cars, there's
What do
place
you
to
want,
go.
you mean,
Yeah, boomerang kids, yeah.
Boomerang kids.
okay,
exactly.
boomerang kids. All right, I want to get
We have a lot of those in
vernacular
town.
correct here, you know? Okay, but do we go with parking then on one side of the street?
I don't think that's feasible, because if you take a look at what happens when the garbage trucks and when the mail truck is delivering, you couldn't have that kind of situation on a continuing basis on a roadway that is still serving, 9,000 vehicle trips a day. But again, I
Well,
don't.
I'm just saying, you know, in your own neighborhood.
Oh, in my own neighborhood? I mean, we're,
You couldn't do it on Deer Path, but you could on other, yeah.
well, all the neighborhoods pretty much have basically 3 lanes of traffic. Now, it's a very cautious 3 lanes of traffic, but there is the ability to navigate. And do we really need, I guess part of the problem is I'm seeing more and more cars on driveways and fewer cars in garages because of our need to have stuff. Well, if you want to have stuff, get yourself a stuff place, a place to stuff your stuff.
And I know the other problem would be that a not-so-advanced disposal would have a lot of problems with it, too, so.
Oh, parking on the street? Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
What, Dave, I mean, what's the average street, you know, in Deer Path? Is it 27 feet?
Yes.
The non-collectors?
Non-collectors.
curb it back
You know,
then?
there's some unique differences for Deer Path, and I remember Trustee Cook bringing it up. It's approximately X feet south of DeBille. That is really the linear part. So we're really looking at from Sullivan to just south of DeBille. As we get south of there, it's curvilinear, and so having cars parked on the street there is concerning. The difference between maybe a Hawthorne Club and Deer Path is the traffic volumes, so we need to keep that into consideration. What I would recommend is, I did complete a report. There is some good facts in there. I'd like to get that in the transmittal packet so you can read it. And again, we can bring it back, and after you review that, review the map, it'll have some good facts on different
Yeah,
options.
okay, but to address what Trustee Schultz was saying, you know, people parking on the aprons, you know, in whatever subdivision it is. I mean, do we need to revisit the 2 a.m. parking restriction? I mean, do we have a real,
I think that was
Threat
going to
of-
be part of that committee, the whole
yeah, I
discussion.
mean, real threat of people just abandoning their cars on our streets then? You know, maybe, you know, I mean, I think, isn't it the history of why communities have parking bans at 2
That
a.m.?
snow removal.
That's part of
Snow
it.
removal's a
I was just going to say, snow removal is a huge portion of it.
Right.
Snow removal and street sweeping, because obviously, at this time of the year, if people are accustomed to and are allowed to park their cars on the street all the time, when that snowfall hits, those streets will never be cleared. Because it won't be just one car on the block that'll be parked there, it'll be everybody.
Yeah, well, and now, you know, what is it? Is it 2 inches? If we get 2 inches,
It is 2 inches
you get a
currently.
ticket?
Well, actually, what we do is we try to locate the owner and have him move it. The ticket is the last resort if we can't find anyone.
Okay.
Some municipalities are going towards a 1-inch snowfall instead of the 2-inch, and taking the same approach that the chief had just mentioned. It's hard for residents to understand whether or not you've hit that 2-inch threshold. It's very easy to understand that it's more than 1 inch and you shouldn't park on the street. City of Chicago, within the last 10
Midnight on
days, go ahead.
December 1, it's,
Yeah.
they make a lot of money on December the 1st.
You got that right.
Okay, all right. Any other new business communication to come before the board?
We can talk about that liquor license, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's right, well, I blew by that. Well, I assume there's citizens that want to address the board momentarily. But is there any citizen here that wanted to address the board on any matter other than what is going to be on committee of the whole? Because if it's on committee of the whole you want to speak, you will be allowed to speak. Okay, cleared the air on that. All right, so is there any other new business communication come before the board? We will not go into closed session tonight for anything. All right, there's a motion to adjourn the village board meeting, go to committee of the whole. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting to order. First item is approval of committee of the whole meeting minutes of December 3rd, 2013.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Comments or corrections or deletions? If not, roll call.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Abstain?
I'll vote aye for the record. Motion carries. Menards Home Improvement Store presentation of revised concept plans for property commonly known as Greg's Landing North Commercial Property located at the northwest corner of Milwaukee Avenue and Greg's Parkway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tom O'Neill from Menards is here tonight, along with Steve Pagnotta from Bradford, to discuss the revised concept plan for the vacant commercial property. As you will recall, the initial concept called for 4 developable lots and 1 outlot for the existing property. What they have come back with, or what Menards has come back with, is a revised site plan that tried to address some of the adjacent neighbors' concerns with building location and views and traffic access, et cetera, et cetera. The plan that's in your packet tonight basically shows a plan where the warehouse and retail building have now been combined into one. The major traffic access to the yard is now on the north side of the property. There have been some changes to the architectural plans, but it's changes related to the merging of the 2 buildings. So you'll see some similarities with regards to 3 of the 4 elevations for the plan itself. The garden center has also been located on the south side of the building this time, and it creates some additional open space by pushing the building away from Greg's Parkway. I guess with that, I'll turn it over to Tom and Steve. I noticed there's a number of residents here from Greg's Landing that'll have some comments or questions, I'm sure. We did send out emails to the folks as requested in the past, and want to continue those communication both with the Greg's Landing folks and some of the folks from Libertyville. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom O'Neill from Menards.
Do you have any O'Briens on your side, in your family?
A few.
Good.
A few.
Just wanted to get that out of my system. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Tom O'Neill with Menards, for the record, 5101 Menard Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We took the comments from the October 15th meeting and worked on revising the site plan. We were trying to be cognizant of a lot of the concerns relative to the warehouse and some of the openness of the warehouse when it was detached from the store. And so we looked at some concepts where we've done before in combining the warehouse into the Menards store itself. And so that's the result of the site plan you see before you is the result of that merging. The warehouse would now be located off the north end of the store. It then places that warehouse a significant distance away both from the property line to the north and to the Libertyville border, between 150 feet and a football field in the northwest part of the site. And it no longer faces to the residents to the west, and that should help reduce any concerns relative to lighting effects that, as far as lights that could be seen in that direction. As indicated by John, he did a better job of actually discussing what we're proposing or the revisions than I could. I really don't have a lot to add as it relates to the store. I'll be happy to answer any questions. The other change that this resulted in is the removal of the yard entrance from the southwest corner of our site plan to the very north. So it should help alleviate any concerns as far as residents to the west, as far as trucks in that area as well. I don't know if Steve has anything to add, but I'm more here from a question and answer perspective. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks have.
Trustee Cook.
Since you've eliminated that truck entrance and that on the west, and you've put in the buffer there, the land buffer in that, in talking to several residents, and not to steal your thunder, Chet, but Chet had a good idea that do we really need that western access? I mean, the problem I see with that is, if it starts to back up at all, people will be encouraged to go down there and go in, and the most logical way to turn out of there is going right. I just as soon keep it at the traffic light. I mean, especially since you've eliminated that being an access that you need. I'd like to see us.
Steve, do you have any comments relative to that? I mean, from a Menard Incorporated standpoint, if there's less road that is than necessary, I don't
necessarily. And it'll allow
want
us
to
to
put it
do
in.
more green and that, I just don't see any need for that.
Yeah, I think at this time, it's probably best not to include it. To the extent that we need it for phase 2, we'll come before you at that time, and if you feel that it's necessary, we can incorporate it. If you feel that it's not, we'll eliminate
I don't really see anything, that could possibly be a reason for it to be there, especially since you've, decided the landscape between there, all it would be an egress mainly. Nobody's going to go in that way. Because
So that would be eliminating, as I understand, the westerly drive on the phase 2 property as well, potentially?
For that outlot?
Yeah, I mean, that could still come in off of the main entrance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Without a drive, without a rear service drive
Yeah.
at that location?
yeah,
Okay. So services would be from the front entrance then?
yeah.
We'd have
Is
to
there
look at
still
that.
a driveway, though, between the green area and that outlot? Is that still would that still be a
I wouldn't
drive?
mind as an the one right along
The
the
side of the green?
east-west
South.
leg of it, to
Yes.
give you an entrance into the outlot. I got no problem with. What I'm talking about is the north-south one that then attaches to Gregg Parkway. That's the main one I'd like to see disappear.
Maybe just
Yeah,
a,
I think what Trustee Williams is saying, if we kept the east-west leg of that for access to the outlot,
Correct.
that
Drop
I have
the
no problem with
Drop
that.
the west
But drop
Yeah.
the north-south one that has a,
exit out onto the.
that exits out onto Greg's Parkway.
maybe one caution on that will be, during technical review, possible fire department comments with access. So, Dave and I both have talked about that, and he raised a good point about possibly having to include Lake County DOT on that, so.
Yeah, and if I could add, John and I did have a chance to talk about this. Once I seen that their plan is not to access that intersection, one of the things that we've looked at is just a conceptual traffic report. It's early in the process, so we don't have final details certainly, but one thing that we would like to do is actually route people to one location. There's higher probability of meeting warrants. We can get a traffic signal at one location based on your proposed change.
Right.
I support your
And
comment.
and that's what I'd like to do. And I mean, if we need something for emergency access, fine, emergency access, but not regular transportation.
Well, okay, let me ask you, I mean, you can't tell from here what turning radiuses are, right?
Correct.
No.
Okay. But you gotta have access to the back of the building.
Yeah.
Well, then come right,
You know, I
emergency,
mean,
you'll come right down that green area and you get in there, let me tell you.
I'm just saying, I mean, so you're saying eliminate,
Just that.
The
logo.
connection
and
to
that would
Greg's
line
Park.
up with the road across the street from it?
It currently does, and the original planning is that would be a truck access area. Their proposed plan right now doesn't utilize that truck access, but there is fire needs. In terms of fire needs, does the fire need actually have to connect into Greg's Parkway, or could it be accommodated in another fashion to make it to the rear of the building?
But how would you get the trucks out?
Cul-de-sac. You could put a cul-de-sac
Yeah.
on the
Put a
west
cul-de-sac
side,
down there.
Yeah.
so.
There have to be some,
We
there
can
have to
work
be
through
several
those
ways to make it
details.
work better.
Okay, well,
I'm sure you
I'm
could
sure
work it out.
we'll have discussions on that. I mean, seems to work fine across the street, doesn't it?
Except that that has a need, it's a truck access, and it is not something that would encourage westbound traffic, as opposed to this encourages westbound traffic.
If that leg is left there.
Yes. Because that's on the other side. That discourages westbound traffic because you got to go across 4 lanes.
Right.
This encourages westbound traffic because it's right there.
As
What
part of the
about
good planning of Greg's Parkway and the development to the south, one was going to be really for customers, the other was going to be for trucks.
Right.
Lowe's, it was set up well. Once Mariano's was installed, there's a number of stop signs along there, so people are actually not going out the main customers. They're using the truck areas instead. So we want to route them to a traffic signal is my recommendation. We can work through the
Since
details.
there's no longer a need for truck traffic there, I don't see the need for the northbound leg.
Are we gonna have to make an adjustment across the street too,
No.
if we get signalization?
Oh,
I think more people are going
The
to
next
use the signal.
I think they'll go to the
Yeah.
signal, yeah.
It may provide some gaps that people may still go to this location. People are going to still try to bypass the front of
That's what I'm
Mariano's.
saying. I mean, people still make a left-hand turn coming out of Mariano's down the truck delivery lane.
Yes, sir.
And make a left onto Greg's Parkway. Why wouldn't they?
They
Because it's
absolutely,
much more difficult than a right there.
they absolutely will, and I think it would reduce one conflict point and decision point for them when they don't have to worry about who's across the street when they're making that westbound turn.
But you're talking about a much more difficult turn to make that will not save you time, probably cost you time, because you'll have to sit there and wait for traffic, as opposed to this one, which is a very simple turn.
Well, if there's a traffic light, you're gonna get a traffic break, and you can make a left-hand turn.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have
won't have as much.
it'd probably be easier to make the turn.
The projections right now, and reading their traffic report, a traffic signal is not currently warranted as part of this build-out for a signal at that location.
But,
So,
the thought is obviously entered our minds collectively to do something there.
yeah, and the requirement is to meet warrants, and we want to get traffic to that main intersection so we can meet those warrants and get a traffic signal there.
And do we need permission from the county on that?
We absolutely do. And even if it wasn't a county agreement, we would need to follow those standards
sure.
and make sure it meets warrants before we put a traffic signal in.
Okay.
So, more discussion on that later.
Yeah.
Can I just address one comment? As I understand this, the desire is to eliminate this leg right here?
Yes.
Okay, but then how do you provide services to this phase of the property? Would it be easier to eliminate this leg so the cut-through doesn't occur, but you could provide services to any potential retailer here?
That eliminates, if you think that works better for your stores, that would be fine.
I think
'cause
it'd be easier to
that
provide.
eliminates the problem I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
provide the cul-de-sac here or some way to provide services
Well, my only
here.
concern with eliminating the east-west leg would be if you do have to get emergency vehicles to the back of your store.
Well, I'm
to
just
Menards.
concerned about future
No,
services
I understand
for
what you're
this.
saying.
You mean
Yeah.
this one?
That one,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Good point.
That's what he's proposing, is eliminate
Well, that's
this,
what
leave
he
this
said.
Yeah.
alone. But I'm,
Well, if you eliminate one of the 2 legs, you'll still be able to get to the back of the building.
exactly.
Right.
And you'll
That
eliminate
should be
the,
fine.
Yeah,
the
I
traffic
think
flow.
from a retail perspective, it's best to eliminate this and have this provide the services to the extent if it's necessary.
For the lot.
for the future of the
Yeah,
lot.
For the future
I
of the
mean,
lot.
that works because that eliminates the
That
problem.
works. It still
Okay.
pushes the traffic out to the intersection you want, right, Dave?
All
Yeah,
right, understand.
that would
okay.
still work.
Good
Yeah, that
solution.
works also.
Okay.
Just as a follow-up comment, what Menards is looking for tonight is direction from the board, any additional comments with regards to the building, how it lays out, what you're hearing from the residents, do you want to see an architect, those types of things, and giving them direction to move forward into technical review, which is our staff review, as you all know. So that's what we're here to, what they're looking for and requesting from you all tonight as to future direction.
Well, Tam, are you interviewing architects?
Yeah, we actually have somebody on board. We don't want to release them on updating the plans until we have any further direction and insight from the board.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Any citizens' questions? Comments?
Good evening. My name is Chet Liss. I live in Greg's Landing at 515 West Torrey Pines Way. I have lived there for 14 years. I'm a director and officer of the Greg's Landing North Homeowners Association. I'm also the chairperson of the Greg's Landing Custom Home Architectural Review Committee. I have reviewed the redesign that was submitted, and my feedback today is strictly on the architectural and aesthetics of the redesign of the Menards store and the warehouse. First of all, the submitted redesign is an improvement over the original design. However, the design still needs a good number of changes. From the submitted plans, the brick colors are too dark. The drawing says tan and dark tan, but the bricks on the drawing look brown and dark brown. The tan and dark tan colors need to be made lighter. The main Menards sign above the main entrance to the store needs to be redesigned. Replace the emerald green access panels with tan brick. The Menards letters should be strictly white with no black bolding. Eliminate the rainbow and the rainbow colors. This will make the Menards sign just like we did with the Lowe's sign. As you recall, initially, Lowe's corporate pushed back when we told them that we wanted a neutral brick background and strictly white letters instead of the blue-black background and the white and the normal letterings. However, Lowe's came around. They were good citizens. They changed the design, and we feel that the Lowe's store is the best designed, most architecturally pleasing store in the whole country. Replace the 3-foot, 0-inch wide stripe painted emerald green that is all around the store, front, sides, and the rear. Replace it with a 3-foot wide strip of prairie stone. Change the color of the emerald green roof trim to tan. Same thing with the metal accent at the right elevation, the north elevation. Change the color from emerald green to tan. Do not use emerald green color anywhere, use tan. Add another set of 3 windows to the east side of the rear elevation. If possible, add 2 sets of 3 windows. From the drawings, I cannot make out the bump outs. From what I see from the drawings, there are not enough bump outs. Therefore, more bump outs need to be added to all 4 sides of the building. For the future, to be able to see the bump outs, I suggest some additional 3D or isometric drawings of the elevations so we could clearly see the bump outs. From the drawing, I cannot tell if the lumber yard has a roof, as requested by at least one of the trustees at our first meeting. A roof over the lumber yard was wanted. Change the design of the cart corrals to be identical to the Mariano's cart corrals. I mean, the Mariano's cart corrals design is great. Per the landscaping experts, in order to sustain growth of the trees and the shrubs, the minimum width of the islands should be 6 foot. Therefore, make all the parking lot islands a minimum of 6 foot wide. Looking at the landscaping plan, there are no Colorado blue spruce trees. Add some. Then, as Trustee Cook has mentioned, eliminate the far west road that goes from the Mariano store to Greg's Parkway. However, as was stated by Bradford, just as well eliminate the east-west road, the whole idea being to avoid people from using that road as a cut-through going west through Greg's Parkway. And when the Menards shopping entrance sign, the entrance sign to the shopping center parking lot itself, the sign should have a beige color background. Menards letters should be strictly white, no black bolding, no rainbow colors. This would make the sign just like the entrance sign to the south parking lot where we have the Lowe's store. In terms of the parking lot lights, they should be the same design as the south parking lot, and that is let them shine down. In closing, with the partnership and cooperation of Menards, Bradford.
Your Honor, we have a copy of Chet's comments, and we've provided them to the developer and the property owner, so.
Do we have copies?
We'll get copies.
Oh.
We'll get copies.
You know, next time we do one of these meetings, could we have somebody give us a transcript with the comments that have been made at the prior meeting?
Sure.
You know, and, you know, I take no issue with what Chet's saying. We'll try to, you know, the Lowe's turned out pretty damn nice, so, you know. And the developer said he's ready to retain a local architect, right?
An architect. You didn't say local. You said
From Wisconsin. Okay, well, UP? Okay. All right, okay. All right. Floor's open.
Good evening. I'm Don Cathan, President of the Greg's Landing North Homeowners Association. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. First of all, I want to say thank you to the residents that showed up here tonight. Obviously, they're interested. They're interested in making this the most aesthetically pleasing and hopefully a long-term relationship with Menards. We want to see it succeed in every measure. One of the things that we continue to request to have a seat at the table is when we're discussing landscaping, the berming. That's still an important issue with the folks just to the west of the development. So at such future point as that is something that's a topic that's to be discussed, look forward to engaging you as well. But again, just want to say thank you. The improvements are wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Looks very nice. Thank you for Chet. He's solicited a lot of input from residents, and his comments are very thoughtful, and hope you'll take those to heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John McMurray. I'm a resident of Vernon Hills. Unfortunately, I wasn't present for the October meeting where this was first brought to the public. Based on this conversation thus far, it seems as if this has moved to a fairly advanced stage in the last 2 months. Wondering, has the board commissioned a study to analyze where you have 3 home improvement centers within 1.7 mile distance of those 3 centers?
No.
We're looking at
No, we haven't.
because we've looked at reports, or we're looking at reports around parking on Deer Path Road. It may behoove us to look at analysis where one of those 3 businesses may go out of business, and then what happens when that's the case.
Can I correct, John? We did have Malanaphy give us some information, did we not?
He did, yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he said he thought this would work.
He did.
Yeah. Let me give you a little background. Melanofi has helped us a number of times before. It's Melanofi and Associates, and they are recognized throughout this area as one of the best at forecasting retail sales trends. He was the first to tell us the Kmart was going out, and we had some plans in preparation when it went out, and it was redeveloped very well. And he's helped us on a number of other occasions, and he's really quite good. And that was one of my concerns. And so I immediately asked staff, could we find out what Melanofi has to say? Because I just trust him, because they've been right so many times in the last 15, 20 years. And his thing was that for the first few months, Lowe's might take a hit, but in the long run, them being together is a lot like furniture stores that tend to go near each other, restaurants tend to go near each other, and car dealerships, my goodness, absolutely go by each other, because it makes it easier for the shopper to do comparative shopping and hit 2-3 different locations. And it based on what I read from his report, and you can correct me wrong, he seemed to think this would work just fine, and in fact be beneficial to all 3 of the stores in the long run.
Okay. It's just that you don't necessarily have that access.
Yeah, no, I know, and that was one of my initial questions from the last meeting, and they did some number crunching, and like I say, I really trust those guys.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bob Sloat. I'm a local resident in the Point, 1576 Hague Point Lane. I just have a question for Tom. If they could just run through the scenario where people come in to the lumber yard, the warehouse, how is that going to work? I mean, they come in, pick up stuff, contractors or whatever, and then go out. I just want somebody to, and then I've got a couple questions after that.
Sure.
Come on, Tom. Or in fact, does he want the mic?
Certainly on the previous plan, we had the docks were flipped, the store was flipped, and so the outside dock access was in this area of the site. Now, commercial truck traffic will be coming in to the lumberyard through the securitized gate over here in the north part of the site plan. Our guests at our store, after coming in through the front doors, going to a display, choosing the particular item that they're looking for and making their purchase, they'll be directed with their pickup truck or pull-behind trailer to also come to the securitized gate, and then they'll be directed to wherever in the lumber yard it is that they have the material they're looking for. Some material is incorporated into the pallet racking structure, the fence line that makes up the perimeter of the lumber yard. A lot of the lumber yard, the lumber itself is within this drive-through capable warehouse. These are inns here, and the guests can drive through this area, pick up their material without getting rained or snowed on, and then exit here, and then circulate back out the exit here. Commercial truck traffic would be docking in this area as far as vans that back into the receiving area, and then we'll have trailers, flats that pull through to this area, which is where the garden center area is, and we'll have areas of stone and pavers and those types of material. Those vans will unload here and then circulate back out through the yard gate over in this part of the site.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you. The question I have really is, when we look at the controlling documents from the CCRs for the Cuneo Commercial North property, the unit development agreements, the restrictions in the covenants for this particular property say that this can only be used, can be used for any purpose other than hotel, office, excuse me, can only be used for these purposes: office, hotel, and retail commercial use. And when we look at, and I can give you the documents, you can look them over. When we talk about retail commercial, in the covenants and restrictions signed by the Cunios for this commercial north property, it says that the retail commercial is defined in this document, and it's also in the ordinances of the village that preceded this, exactly the same language, that the retail commercial is defined as the sale of products, recreation, or services directly to ultimate consumers, but specifically excluding and without limitation all warehouse and wholesale use and operations. So, you know, we've had a couple comments about we have a warehouse where people can pull in and out. It's part of it's called a lumber yard on the open part, but in the on the plot and even in some of the staff reports, we have a warehouse. And so we have an issue here. If we're going to go forward with this project, we have this language I just told you. Retail commercial is the sale of products, recreation, or services directly to ultimate consumers, but specifically excluding, without limitation, all warehouse and wholesale uses and operations.
Excuse me, it's not wholesale.
I'm sorry?
It's not wholesale. This is retail.
No, I'm not saying this is.
Yeah.
But, so.
What's the date?
All right, here.
Well, wholesale would be.
Can I see the document real
Well,
quick?
here, this is, it's the basic.
Is this going back to the annexation agreement?
The 88 agreement?
Back to 1988?
Oh, the development agreement from 94.
Yeah, well, we have, I mean, I read that over and I say, well, we got a warehouse here. In those are the covenants and restrictions signed by the Cunios, and they were preceded by Village Ordinance 9630, which is the same language. So we've got,
It's not wholesale.
no, but it's a warehouse.
But it's not wholesale.
It's not a warehouse.
No, it doesn't require
It's
wholesale.
a storage facility for the product that
Okay.
they sell.
But
The
we've
same
labeled-
as Sears and every other store at the
And you're-
mall.
and you're driving
has
in-
a storage facility within their building.
Right, and you're driving in, and you have, you have people coming in cars, picking up stuff from what might be considered, you could consider it a warehouse.
No, we will.
Lowe's does the same thing, but it's
They
only in
don't,
the front.
they don't have inside.
You go under a duct to pick up your stuff in the wholesale area.
In
I
the
mean,
front.
their
In the
lumber
front.
area.
Right.
Bob, have you looked at this?
I haven't looked at it recently. I will
Oh,
take,
here, why don't you look at it real quick?
I will take a
Okay.
look at it, but I would say that just without having looked at that language, that this strikes me more as a retail operation, not a warehouse.
No, I
facility.
understand.
Warehouse- Let me just finish. Warehouse facility and a wholesale operation connotes a totally different sort of operation than a store like Menards.
Right,
But I haven't read the language yet, but that just.
But it's not just wholesale, it says
Okay.
warehouse, so, and with people coming in and out, so, that was the point, that's the point. You can look that over. The village ordinance is 9630, which preceded that in, I think in 96, March of 96, and that's exactly the same language. So, I think we have a real problem here. Thank you.
My name is Mitch Portugal. I'm just a resident, a concerned resident. I live at 2045 Inverness in Greg's Landing. And the reason I brought this piece of paper is, and I know John does a great job of recycling empty buildings, but as a resident of Vernon Hills, I want to say you're all doing a great job, and I appreciate the chance to say what I have to say. But you're providing a boxing ring for two heavyweights to go at it, Lowe's and Menards. And Best Buy had this great idea of opening another big box 5 miles from the store in Vernon Hills. That has been empty and vacant right where my daughter lives in Mundelein. And they had great ideas that they could make it 5 miles away. Menards is also 6 miles away. You have, as I said at the last meeting, 2 Home Depots, one in Vernon Hills, one in Mundelein, Lowe's, and now Menards. And I just don't want the village to be stuck with a 300,000 square foot white elephant, which I did a little research and just printed this out. There's over 1 million square feet of commercial in Vernon Hills for rent. And this is just from a real estate list. Now, 10, 20,000 square foot buildings are easy to recycle. Not a, whatever the square footage of this monster is. That is not going to be hard, and we don't want a white elephant sitting at the entrance of Greg's Landing. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any more comments?
Any other comments? Okay. All right, trustee Cook.
Yeah, I had one other one that Chet reminded me of, and I agree with him. I think at time, if sometimes it's just these drawings, so when you do get to an architect's point, I also would like to see it be a little lighter in color. It's kind of heavy and dark now, and a lot of times that's just these drawings.
I wasn't sure if we were to a point where the board wanted to look at samples, but this is the contrasting tones of brick that we were looking at, as far as a darker and lighter shade. And so I'm not sure if these do the comments justice.
Yeah, that's a lot better than what I'm seeing on the drawing.
The
So,
drawings that are available.
But you're not going to see this drawing again.
right.
We're not going to
That's
see
why I
this
asked.
drawing
Yeah.
again.
Solid
You know.
chocolate.
Now,
That's a printed.
those are much lighter, are they
Yes,
not?
yeah,
Makes a big
yeah.
You see the
difference.
contrast.
Yeah.
And dark brown.
Yes,
And that makes a huge difference. Thank you for bringing that up.
thank you.
Okay. There any comments from the staff on this one?
Again, direction to, if you're so inclined, to proceed on to technical review with the staff. We'll be working with them over the next few months. Obviously, we'll want to talk with the HOAs adjacent to it to go, especially as Mr. Cathan said, with regards to the landscaping and the screening and those types of things. You know, and the like. So if you're okay with that, I guess Bob can give his quick spiel and we'll be on our way.
The quick spiel is that this is concept review. It's not binding on the village board. It gives the residents and the developer a sense of what sense you can get from their comments, but it's nothing here is binding on the ultimate decision by the village board.
Okay, well, based on previous discussions, based on discussions this evening, you know, I'm going to ask for a motion to actually send this to technical review.
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or questions? If none, roll call.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that's just to send it to technical review, so that's not approving anything yet.
Right. I mean, the technical review process will take several months. Will be
Make sure that everybody understands that that's not approval of a project.
Right. It will then go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a public hearing. Most of the adjacent property owners will get some kind of notice. And at that time, there'll, again, more testimony that will be taken and will ultimately return back before this committee at some point in late spring is my guess, so, at this point.
Okay. Next item is the Veterinary Hospital, 1101 North Milwaukee Avenue. Presentation of concept and information for this proposed use to be located in the Apple Orchard Square Shopping Center.
Your Honor, representatives are here tonight to discuss the veterinary hospital that we would like to locate in the existing retail space in Apple Orchard. By way of some background, the ordinance 2006-77 approved a special use permit for this location However, one of the conditions of that approval was to only allow permitted uses on the property. It did not allow any special uses to be developed on the property, and therefore, right now, as it sits, they can't apply for a special use permit to allow this use to go at that location. I don't know. In doing some research, I believe the intent of this was to restrict the uses simply because it was unknown as to what may ultimately go there. So that's why it's here before you tonight, for direction more than anything else.
We should hold off until we're all up
We
here.
gotta wait till we get the board back. Excuse me, gentlemen, we don't have a quorum.
Come on, guys, let's go. All right, where were you, Jen?
Should I start over?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, again, the background, the original ordinance that approves the shopping center prohibited special uses, any type of special uses to be located on the property. One of those special uses is an animal clinic or hospital, which is now currently is not permitted by that condition to locate on the site, no matter what. The petitioners would like to establish an animal hospital. To do that or to allow that to occur will require, A, that the original ordinance be amended and that condition be eliminated, and B, then a special use permit would be granted or recommended for approval by the commission and then ultimately granted by the village board. Staff, in looking at this and talking with the petitioners, doesn't have any issues with regards to them proceeding back to the Plan Commission. You've got a letter explaining who they are, what they'd like to do, and answering some questions that we kind of worked on together about, why is this a good location and what are you going to do with the pet waste that might be generated out about the site. So they're here, they can answer any questions. Again, they're seeking your direction in terms of the appropriateness of the use to that location and whether they should proceed on to the Plan Commission to request further consideration. And I can answer any questions if you like, or they can.
One quick question I have is Zaza's is going out of business?
Right.
Are they still open, or?
I believe so. I've driven by several times and it appears that they are still open.
Is there any residents here that got a concern about it?
Well, no, again, this is the concept, the veterinarians are here tonight, or the doctors, and
Who are the vets? Who's the
they can answer
veterinarian?
any questions. So.
We have a few.
Oh, there's only 4 of them? There's got to be a mouthpiece amongst you.
Yeah, there you go. My name is Scott Peter. I'm a village resident. I'm one of the veterinarians. This is Joe Whalen, my colleague, and Dan Markwalder, veterinarian as well.
So all 3 of you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I got 2 dogs. I don't mind veterinarians. Except when I got to pay the bill. But
One dog, 2 cats.
Does Obamacare cover animals?
We're working on that.
You guys working on that?
That's our next meeting.
That would be pretty useful. Okay, yeah, only indigent sons, okay. Is there any cause for our concern? How many hospitals we got in town already? We got the one right here.
There are.
Then one at PetSmart now?
Right.
There's a Banfield and PetSmart and the VCA right here, both corporate-run practices.
Yeah.
Different than closely held practices as far as the
You got
type
enough
of medicine that's
room
offered.
just going into Zaza's or?
Yeah, it's 1,600 square feet.
How many?
1,600.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at now?
I'm currently in Mount Prospect.
Oh, you guys are?
Yeah.
We have.
Oh. Well, you're not moving up here.
Maybe.
Well, maybe.
No, I don't doubt it.
You never know.
Why would he? If he's
Well, we have
He's up here golfing at White Deer Run all the time. I figure you might as well just get a house outside of it.
I'm from the south side. I know where Chicago Ridge is, Jesus. All right. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
No, I
just
think.
want to hear one more from the resident. In fact, where are you practicing?
Sure. My practice is in Algonquin. I have one in Algonquin, Geneva, and in South Elgin.
So you guys spread a little thin. Are you going to give up those? Or is this just another, so that you're going to become the new VCA?
Well, our model is to, it's very hard for any new veterinarian to break into ownership because you're competing with the VCAs and the Banfields. And it's an opportunity for us to practice the type of medicine that we'd like to practice and bring this type of medicine that's not necessarily a corporate type of medicine to the village and other villages. And give a new veterinarian a chance to start out in starting a practice like this, where the opportunities, the barriers to starting are just too great anymore.
So you're looking at hiring some young vets to really operate this,
Exactly.
and you'll be the corporate guy, so to speak.
So to speak.
Well, we'll bring our experience of
How to establish and run a
Yeah,
practice.
we all have 21 years of experience in
Right, but
veterinary medicine.
you're not going to be practicing here.
Well, I wouldn't say we'll never be there, obviously. We'll probably occasionally be there, but we're not going to be there full-time. We'll have 1 or 2 veterinarians.
He may be here more,
Yeah,
just because.
Absolutely.
Right. It's in my backyard.
Yeah.
Have you guys got certified already? I mean, is there you have to go through any certification with the state to open up and do
No.
facility?
No.
Because you have the existing ones.
It has to be owned by a veterinarian, but we're all licensed veterinarians.
Okay.
Specific to that.
Trustee Cook.
Are you going to be limited to dogs and cats, or will you be also some exotics and aviary or any of any kind? Or
Horses?
Depends on the veterinarians who are able to get to work with us. There's not a lot that are really skilled in those.
Mhm.
They're kind of hard to find.
Largely depends on the proprietor of the practice. If they have an interest in aviary and exotic medicine, then they'd probably pursue that. And if not, it'll probably just be limited to dogs, cats, and
hamsters?
Okay.
no horses.
No hamsters.
So what direction do you want to give these gentlemen?
Does staff see it?
I don't see any issues. I mean, I think, again, when the shopping center was open or first considered, there weren't any uses specified. So I think that there was a level of nervousness, quite frankly, again, because of the compact site, the limited ability to deal with overflow parking if there was a parking problem. So I think that's why some of the restrictions came into place. But looking at the notes and the like, I think the original thoughts were, office, medical, probably would be a good use at this location. So I don't see that there's going to be a big issue here unless they decide to serve chicken wings and have a bar associated with this. And then, then we got a whole other issue, so.
Sure. We try to save the chickens from becoming chicken wings.
There is one open spot right now in that, right? There's one vacancy.
Right.
And then you're saying that this
Right.
will be the new vacancy. So
Right.
What kind of, this would stabilize that
Right.
at about, 70%, 80% full?
Yeah, about 80%, right.
Okay.
Okay, well, you want to go to technical review, might as well.
They'll go right on to the plan commission.
Sure.
There's very little that they need to do with regards
Okay.
to me.
Go ahead.
Thank you for
I'll
your
just
time.
give
Thank
my, before you go.
You got to get the speech.
He's got a,
I don't give any speaking roles, so I got to take it when I can get it. It's concept review. Concept just gives you kind of a preliminary reaction of the village board. It's not binding. When you go through the process, it doesn't guarantee a successful vote. So you have to take the input you got and make your own business decisions for that.
Thank you.
Who's Dr. Whalen?
That's me.
Oh, okay. And then you're Dr. Mark Walder?
Walder.
Okay,
Mark Walder.
all right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good
thank
luck,
you.
guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, next is capital improvement program budget for 2014 and 15.
Thank you very much. Wanted to present the draft capital improvement program. The total dollar amount is $5,555,056. The larger components include the Police and Communication Center remodeling. That's the next item on the agenda, so we won't go into a lot of I won't go into a lot of detail, and certainly the chief and John will fill you in on those details. $1.2 million for the annual road rehabilitation program. We did go over that at the earlier meeting. It would be at Corporate Woods. VHAC soccer lighting, field lighting, $160,000 for the lighting. We have a lot of scheduling issues at the VHAC because of the growth of soccer. I've talked to the Park District and also the soccer affiliates. The Park District is willing to pay for half of those estimated $160,000 improvements. And in addition to that, the soccer group was willing to contribute $20,000 towards the field lighting. So some positive proposals there. Consideration of a playground with shelter. We'll go into more details on that, $140,000. And then a connection to American Hotel Register, $78,000. Our typical preventive maintenance and sidewalk program, $165,000, and then an EJ&E bike path along the south side of the EJ&E from Butterfield Road going easterly to Indianwood. It would connect into the pathway system by the Park District's new maintenance facility, and then some Arbor Theater improvements, $135,000. Some miscellaneous smaller items that total $234,340. One big thing that I wanted to note as we go through our budget process is we are in the middle of the spike of the emerald ash borer. So we've identified 1,134 trees this year that need to be taken down. We anticipate next year we'll have the same amount. So essentially this year my staff, we tried, last year we did everything in-house. We didn't contract out one bit of it. We were able to manage 600 trees. It took every division, all hands on deck for multiple months. It's not sustainable. We're going to need some help with contractors to remove trees and then help us replant trees. So as we get into my operation budget, I'll discuss that more. I guess the good news is we're in the heat of the battle. 1,100 this year, 1,100 next year. That's 2,200. We've already taken down 650 this year. Prior, maybe another 175. So the good news is after these 2 years, we only have 600 more ash trees to deal with. Some of them we've injected. We hope that that will keep them thriving for a shorter period, certainly, hopefully longer. And most of those are white ashes, so they will survive better than the green ashes we've been dealing with. So for what it's worth, the next 2 years are going to be very difficult. Wanted to get the word out on camera. We'll communicate it with residents. It's going to be devastating what we see in the next 2 years, certainly in the Deer Path area. Some of the A streets are pretty much 100% ash trees. Unfortunate, serious burden in terms of financial impact.
You know,
to the village.
at some point, if and when will homeowners decide to take their own down? You know what I mean? And I know we don't have any enforcement powers, or do we, in that regard?
We actually do have enforcement powers. It was originally set up when we were dealing with elm tree infestation. So under those same requirements, we do have the power to go in and for safety-related issues, address that. The good news is a lot of businesses are understanding that. Right next to Rust-Oleum to the east, they went down Lakeview and on their property and into their property west of Lakeview, they've removed a number of ash trees. Rust-Oleum has done it. A number of other businesses, Continental Executive Park, they've went through and they've looked at ash trees, so everyone understands this, they're trying to maintain
Do we
it.
have a way now to identify every ash tree in town?
At this point in time, it's very easy. You can tell which ones are ash trees because of how bad they look. And when they don't know, they should call our Public Works Department. We'll send our forester or some of
But
our other
what will we
specialists out.
estimate, David? Okay, if we were 3,500 or whatever, how many other ash trees are there in town? Christ, is there 10,000 more?
Yeah, I would triple it, yeah, to 10,000, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And if you look at the screening, I know, Trustee Cook, that buffer along the EJ&E, I suspect the majority of those are all ash trees. We've had some of those fall across the fence into the open space area. Yeah, some arbor studies that we've seen is typically, you're at 60% of the trees are typically buckthorn or 70%, and then the one right after that is ash, different types of ash trees in our area, so.
Yeah, and they were just unfortunately the most typical tree put in when New Century Town that was built, and in the 70s when a lot of this community was built.
Yeah, they're good parkway trees. The unfortunate part is they have the tallest canopy. So, I mean, they're very prominent. They provide a lot of shade. They do a lot of good. Unfortunately, this beetle also likes them. So it's just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, it's an understatement. Okay, all right.
So if I may, I'll jump into the capital
Just had one
improvement.
quick question for you. That you said a figure of 5.5 million, and the packet said 5.8 million. I just wanted to.
Yeah, let me clarify that. The dollar amount is $5,855,000.
5.8.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
My cover memo may be slightly off. No, it's okay.
5.8. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
5.8.
right.
Thank you. So
You gonna do the police, or you leaving?
No, he's done.
You done?
No, he's not done.
What do you got? Yeah. But I mean, does the chief have any talking parts on the police?
right after this, the chief's going to come back, and after I'm done with the CIP, he's going to have a lot of talking points, and
God.
John's going to help support him.
Take your time, chief. We're gonna adjourn the board meeting.
Yeah, 9:30.
So I will go through each section. I want to hit on what the proposed budget is for this year. If you see something adjacent to it that you want shifted into this year budget, or you want things shifted out, please stop me and tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving through. Major initiatives, as you said, the Police and Communications Center remodel. The chief and John will talk about that shortly after. Our Public Works facility, these aren't the storage bins, it's actually the facility. In the current year's budget, we have $10,000 to hire an architect to look at the space needs for storage at our Public Works building. I've went through and we've got rid of a lot of excess things that we've had laying around for way too long, so those have been auctioned off. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Who, oh my God. Who, are we, or the police department, or fire department, or us all collectively responsible for the maintenance of the Opticom system?
Good question. It's funded by the Village of Vernon Hills.
Okay, because Lakeview and Fairway, this reacted to the approaching fire truck pretty slowly. It didn't, I had the green and the truck's coming from this way. We all had the green to go north if we wanted to out the 60. And it kind of, they had to stop and, beep the horn and, lights, whistles, sirens. And then it changed after they passed. So I mean, I'd just be curious, maybe you could check with Chief Steingard. Maybe the guys didn't, hit the button quick enough, but.
We've had recent conversations with the chief and also with Ron Grant. We've had our maintainers go out and looked at the Opticoms. Some of them have been replaced. We're also finding that they're changing to LED technology, and so them seeing the change compared to it being activated It's a little bit different than the old system. So we're investigating that.
Yeah, well, this was a slow one. I mean, I don't know where these guys were, where they're going, but they certainly seem to be going to an emergency of some sort.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've had recent conversations. I understand
right.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at we're going to hire an architect out of this year's budget that was already approved. We're really looking at what our needs are for public works related storage. We're thinking that potential expansion for our existing uncovered bins to have a roof line extended over there to provide more storage. We have more vehicles over there. We have other equipment to store. We'd prefer not to store them outside. It extends their life. So let us get through that in terms of the architect, and then we'll be back in a future year talking to you about what their findings are, but nothing proposed for next budget year. VHAC enhancements, a couple of things. The monuments, we're proposing $25,000 in your binder. You will see that recently Stevenson High School for the south end of the VHAC is installing a wood-routed sign. So they're in for building permit for that. The high school at the north end of the campus, they've added a monument sign that's more brick style. What we're proposing here is that we think that there needs to be a village sign out there. In conversations with staff, a proposal is as you're entering, going northbound, you would add a sign when you're heading south. When you first enter the VHAC, you would have a sign that tells you that you're at the VHAC also. I think it helps with all the events that we're having there so people know where they're at and we can help direct them. In your packet, we're showing some wood-routed type signs. I guess it would be similar to the one that's over our shoulder, either supporting the Muni or at the lit one right there for the Park District. So our budget is based on 2 of them, similar to that, and with some additional landscaping around it. So that's what that line item is for. Container yard expansion. We have maintenance needs out there. What we'd like to do is add 2 more containers out at the site with the board's approval. Right now there's 4 of them. We have needs to store more things out there instead of having different things parked out from the different users. Right now there's 4 of them. 2 of them are used by other user groups. One by the Stingers, one by Mark Peterson and the Cougar Group. We have needs for 2 more boxes to be stored out there. We'd like to landscape it too, because I'm not sure if we can afford a permanent storage solution just yet, but we have the defined needs now.
6 total?
6 total with asphalt landing in front of it.
You blew past the shade canopies.
Let's see. Yeah, so the shade canopies, it's in for a future year. Essentially some sort of shade solution. I'm not recommending it for this budget that we're considering right now, just something to keep in mind unless the board would like to move that forward to this budget year.
You've got $45,000 for 2014 on the sheet here.
Oh, excuse me.
Do we have the same sheet of paper?
Page 1 on the...
Yep.
This puppy here.
What page?
Oh, I'm sorry. That is the estimate in 2014 dollars. If we could look at the executive summary in the front, that will give us the what's actually proposed for which year. Okay. Sorry for the confusion.
David, am I correct? I just want to go back to the storage containers. It's 12,000. Is it $6,000 a piece, or is it 12,000?
The storage units are approximately $3,000 each, but it includes some fencing in between it, some landscaping, and asphalt to allow you to drive up to them. and then you need to ramp because they're up a little bit higher.
That's why I was confused with the figure, so I understand.
Yeah, yeah. I'm using these because these provide me more detail.
Okay, I understand. Sorry about the confusion. So that's the container yard expansion. Moving forward in terms of soccer field lighting, this is it's a preliminary estimate. We need to find out our power needs. We need to get final numbers for the lighting itself. The soccer club has committed right out of the gate that they would pay the first $20,000. The Park District has said that they would split the next half with us if the board wanted to move this forward. Again, the largest issue we're facing.
Field?
This would actually supply 3 different fields.
To the east of the existing
The
football
easternmost,
fields. Yeah, okay.
exactly. Fields 10, 11, and 12, the easternmost ones are not
Are
lit.
those like, all, are they 120 yards, all of them? That's probably close.
Yeah, they are close to being not the largest fields, but just a little bit shy of the adult preferred, almost Olympic type size fields.
Yeah, 'cause with a width is what, about 80 yards or something like that?
80 or 90, yeah.
Not a soccer field. It's gotta be, well, it's more than, it's probably 30 yards wider than a football field.
I think they would like it 10 feet wider than actually what we have, but what we have out there is meeting their needs. What the impact that we have is the soccer program, again, is expanding, and we need to allow more time, and under the lights, it will free up the schedule. There will be a lot less conflict between the different users if we could add lights. This is something I think.
Who's the gentleman who's the head of the soccer?
There's Mr. Andrew Reebok. I can't pronounce his last name, but Andrew Reebok, I think it is.
Is it Reebok?
Reebok, maybe? Yeah. So he's our contact with that.
Well, they would also be used for lacrosse, wouldn't they?
They'd be used for lacrosse. It would just free up a lot more scheduling. Really, there's a lot more needs for more adult-type soccer in general.
Kickball?
Kickball is more on field too, but I understand that too.
It's baseball. That's a baseball diamond.
Question though, too, Mark Peters is talking about the lighting, that maybe we take the lighting, instead of putting it in the fields itself, is to back it, because once you start placing them on a row, then you eliminate the design of the field or restricting the design of the field for a particular, and he was saying if you put lights backing along the edge, you could light additional and expand upon the fields that we already have lights on them.
Well, it looks like your design is doing that. You've got 3 out of the 4 right up against the roadway. And the 4th one is kind of backed off too. So I think he's taken that into consideration. That recommendation is under consideration.
And we're going to bring in the experts from Musco in terms of the maximizing the lighting, and we will include Mark Peterson in terms of what his needs are and the other users, so we make sure it's designed to meet everyone's needs.
Yours too.
What is this, a 10-minute one?
I think it's 5.
So.
Okay, we've got 2 of these left.
Okay, moving right along.
Dave, tell us not to
You know, come on, it's happy holidays.
So let me get rolling. Playground with shelter, $140,000. I'd leave that to the board in terms of.
What do you think the grant upside is?
I think there's grant opportunities. We really have to talk to them about OSLAD, et cetera.
20,000?
I think that we might be able to get 30 to 40,000 in terms of a grant. This would be something new for the village, that we end up kind of a recreation department or whatever, that Public Works is now maintaining a playground. But it has been in the master plan, previously. We think it would be nice for parents to have the younger kids there when the other kids are playing other sports. So we think there is some benefit there. And there's also needs for shelter. The shelter would be real important when people are registering for different groups, et cetera. So that's why that's included. The American Hotel Register connection. The high school originally was proposing to fund that connection to get to their fields on American Hotel Register. We would need American Hotel Register approval. We last year talked to the high school about maybe consideration of us paying half of the $78,000. I've talked to them more recently, and because of some of their expansion that they've done with their baseball fields, batting cages, et cetera, they cannot participate. So I don't know if that changes the board's mind in terms of whether we should move forward with the full $78,000 or whether we should go back to the high school and negotiate with them. I think it benefits them as much as anyone.
I want to go back to the new soccer area for the microfields.
Yes.
If the soccer club is growing, why aren't we pursuing this year? Seeing as that's only also $35,000 and.
Yeah. So the work would be to just work through the grading to create it for the smallest age group. Their more immediate needs right now is for the largest soccer fields for more adults. Right now, we're able to cover the soccer needs in the outfields of, so it's not as pressing.
Okay.
But we do feel there may be a need into the future. Let's see. The backstop net replacements, as you can see from the pictures, they continuously are failing us. We want to replace fields 3 and 4. It's not the backstops, it's the netting behind it. We want to replace 2 of them this year, and then the following budget year, replace 2 others. They are failing, the net's ripping, et cetera. So I think that's more of a must rather than a want. Let's see, and then tables with umbrellas. There's some prototype, some designs in there as far as what type of tables would have some umbrellas, just so people can sit there and have some additional shade. Here, nothing. The ITAP grant, that is, we've been pursuing this for 7-8 years, and this is our match. I've talked to IDOT more recently. They said that Milwaukee Avenue in front of Denny's, north of 60, they may be resurfacing that area this construction season or the following one. So I want them to take care of it, and I'm sure the board wants them to take care of the concrete medians that are rubbleized for many, many years. We have the mall expansion, so we want to keep this grant match in there, and I am pushing with IDOT to get that improved. So that's really just our part of the match, which is 20, they're funding 80% of it as part of that grant. We talked about the road project, $1.2 million for construction, $10,000 for testing.
They want to put minis?
Now, and we talked previously that we don't expect motor fuel tax to increase, and we're averaging whatever it was, $600,000 a year or something like that, and we want to spend $1 million too. I guess I'd like to keep it on our radar screen that if we ever do any kind of sales tax increment or whatever, that we funnel money directly to fund this. There's a few things. You keep the snow plowed, keep the roads passable, and keep the garbage picked up, and these are trying to keep the roads passable.
And fireworks.
Yeah, just the basics. Yeah.
So, this is something really worth funding. This is the majority of our capital asset is our roadways. So, I don't know, we need to think about how we're going to fund it in the future on a 20-year schedule as opposed to a 35-year schedule.
Operational cost.
This isn't the capital improvement program in front of us per se, but do we do any street plowing in the business parks at all? Or is that up to the association to do?
We do the plowing of our public roadways within Continental Executive Park and also Corporate Woods.
What do you got? One or two of those machines, or?
Oh, are you talking about the?
I'm not talking the paths, the paths.
The path itself, we have a one holder, and the second holder we are currently sharing with the Park District. So we're taking care of a couple of their parking lots, one off of Greg's Parkway, Lake Charles Park, and then on Lakeview, just south of the EJ&E Railroad, we're plowing in and out there, and then also by the church. So we take care of those 3 parking lots this year, and in return, we're sharing one of our holders, the oldest one, and they are going up and down Deer Path. And they're doing the sidewalk up and down Deer Path in exchange. They're right in that area doing paths anyway.
But what about Continental Executive Park? Can we go in there and do?
Our Continental Executive Park, yes, we go down Fairway, yeah, from the Arbor Theater, yeah. We do in front of the school. We do down Fairway along the Arbor Theater, and we go north through the business park.
Huh, okay.
Yeah. We do not do along the CV ditch. That's the association that has that pathway and that obligation.
I mean, behind the Y in it?
Exactly.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, that's fine.
Okay.
Are we done yet?
Oh, we're just about there,
Getting
sir.
there to the chief?
Yep.
Oh, he's given up his part.
So moving right along, preventive maintenance program, the 160.
Was it 5 minutes?
Get it rolling, and I'll get it done.
I didn't take
so you
that
broke
one.
in and, you know, you
I
broke
yield to
Dave's-
the gentleman
Dave's
from
concentration.
Public Works.
I appreciate the extra 5 minutes. Preventive maintenance program, we've talked about that. It's a standard program for crack sealing, pavement marking, patching, and then this year we are proposing to do pavement management so we can figure out our roads. You know about that. Seal coating also, so no change in those programs other than $5,000 more for the sidewalk program. Bike path improvements, we talked about the EJ&E just south of the EJ&E from Butterfield to Indianwood, $230,000. We have an application in for a grant. We talked about the sidewalk and concrete program. Open space area, we need to maintain our banks and stabilize them, $18,000. Lake Charles and Harvey Lake, we've received reports more recently. We need to maintain, keep the invasives out of there. So that's why you have $15,000 for Lake Charles, $8,000 for Harvey Lake. Our treatment of the the Eurasian water milfoil did happen last spring. It was very successful, but it doesn't happen just in 1 year, so we need to reapply. Traffic signal warrants, $6,000. We want to look at Greg's in Lakeview and Greg's in Huntington, so those are on the list. We think that there may be warrants needed at Lakeview. Moving right along, the golf course, we threw in that it needs a new roof for $20,000. It also needs some painting on the main building and the maintenance building. I know OB has a call in to me, so we want to discuss that further.
Well, I got a question on that. So when was the last time we really evaluated the HVA system in that building?
It has not been evaluated since that building was built. The HVAC system for the Muni.
Would anybody like to find out what we should have to actually heat and really air condition the place?
Yeah.
Don't hire the people that did this building, though.
No, but seriously, I mean, what would it cost to do that? I mean,
What I'd like to do is send our new staff member, Tony, over there, and he has been doing some adjustments, and it sounds like it is improving. Let me find out from Tony where we're at and what he thinks needs to be changed.
That's the same system we put in '96.
But to his point, with this new gentleman.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
He's got it operating a lot better than it ever operated before.
Hey, Dave, though, I mean, if it's not, I'd like to know if, okay, is this the right size for this building? You know?
Yeah, he's been fantastic for looking at the different buildings and has some good information for him. Let me write that down. I know.
'Cause
that-
I don't spend as much time up there as some members of the board.
Yeah.
Of course, I do spend quite a bit.
So the Arbor Theater, two last items, the Arbor Theater, right behind the Arbor, at the Arbor Theater, everything is sloughing. They have the holy boulders that are starting to slant into the water. We need to do something, so I'm looking to hire someone, look at stabilizing that. It needs to be addressed, and then some path repairs because it is tearing. That's all I have.
Better do some pile driving, right?
We'll do some, yeah, we'll definitely stabilize it. That's all I had. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the board, or we just want to jump to the big one? We need to take $800,000 out of this $3.5 million, which would be spent over how many years?
We need to take 800,
No, how many years are we gonna, is this $3.5 million you want to spend next year on this building?
You're talking about the police department, I assume.
Yeah.
It depends on how you look at it. I believe the almost newly minted village manager has a lead-in introduction to this with some thoughts and ideas along with Larry and me.
Can we, if we have to,
There's a couple of different ways to look at it. If it's all done at one time, there's a considerable savings. If it's done phased in over 2 years as another proposal, the savings are not that significant because they have to actually start the job, stop it, then pick it up and start it again. It's easier if the entire building is done as one project at one time.
Chief, you could say with a reasonable degree of certainty that this will be the last rehab and expansion during your career.
That is correct, sir.
Doing his career.
That's what, see, you answered it.
I'm not going there.
No, I understand. You know, I read
That's what I'm not
I read the
going to
minutes
say that.
of the Planning and Zoning Commission back in 1989, 1990,
Yeah.
where the then Assistant Village Manager stood up and said, this will be the last
Oh,
public, I read that. I understand
I
that.
think Lashin said that too.
Yeah, no. You know, at that time, the village was still growing, and that's a difficult decision to make, and I think they thought they had built it with all those things in mind, all the contingencies. But nobody ever took into account the Combined Communication Center, for example. No one ever took into account the number of female employees that we have. Back in 1992, having a female officer was a rarity. We have 8 officers, 8 female officers, 1 female CSO, and 12 female telecommunicators, all trying to live out of a locker room that houses 11 people.
Yep.
Those things just weren't taken into account. And we're not saying the building it needs to be demoed, but there's approximately 1/3 of the space, it's expensive, but approximately 1/3 of the space is unusable because of the way it's designed right now. And it can't be used for anything else. Our whole lobby area, for example, that can't be used for anything. And it's 2 stories tall, and it's freezing cold in there, and because of the way it's constructed, there isn't anything you can do. The old communication center, again, it's built like a fortress with concrete walls. There's nothing you can do with that. You couldn't rehab that if you wanted to. Our record section, it was built for 5 or 6 people. We've now almost eliminated our record section because of electronic technology. That space is occupied by 1 person right now, and you could have 4 to 6 people in there. But because of the way it's like this room, putting 4 to 6 people in this room, it just doesn't make sense. And then you move to the back of the building, we have the watch commander's office, which was originally designed for 4 people. We have 12 people operating out of there now in a space of about 20 by 20. Roll call room is adequate. Property and evidence storage. Who'd have thought the Supreme Court would have said that for any major felony, you have to keep evidence for 99 years after the date of conviction?
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it? But we do. And with that combined with all the bicycles and other materials we have, we're just out of space. And for the same reason that no one thought that we'd ever have that many female employees, somebody thought it was a real good idea to put the gun cleaning station in the back of the men's locker room. So any woman of these, 9 people who want to come in and clean their weapon have to go in there and make sure there's no male officers in there using the bathroom or using the locker rooms. It's just that when it was designed, it was beautiful when it was designed, but over the years, things have changed, our needs have changed, technology has changed, and that's what's driving a lot of these physical changes. There are about $700,000 or $800,000 worth of improvements that just have to be done. You know, we're talking about replacing the roof on the golf course, which was built 5 or 6 years after the police department. Police department's 22, 23 years old and still has the original roof, which leaks a lot. Dave and his crew have done an outstanding job of repairing it, but it's time.
Sure.
The air conditioning units, again, are original. One is near death. It has died multiple times and has been repaired. The other one is the same age and can go at any time. We were very fortunate we did not have a hot summer. The last summer when it was hot, it was off almost 3 or 4 weeks during the summer. And it gets hot. It's like a tin can in that building.
Now, if you said everything that John was going to say,
Yeah, I think I pretty much did. I'm sorry.
John, you want to do your introduction?
No, I really don't, Your Honor. I think you guys want to move on.
Did I use my 5 minutes?
Yeah, you.
No, you still got a little bit left.
I think Dave borrowed 2 or 3 of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, does anybody on the board have any questions for the chief, or everything's Jake?
The only question I had was, are you bringing the coloration? Is that going to?
That is leaving. If, you know, I don't think the final colors have been determined because we haven't even determined if this is going to move forward, but it'll probably be more like a battleship gray. What is now teal?
Well, but you were talking, there was some talk about trying to dye it so.
Yes, the architect has said that that's doable process and we can dye it or stain it to match the building across the way, so it kind of looks like a cohesive unit.
Right, good, as long as that's still in there, because right now that's an eyesore, that corner.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I guess my only caution in that would be value engineering of the project. And that might be one of those expensive
Right,
items
no,
that.
understood,
Probably.
yeah, yeah.
Might have me and a few of the boys out there on ladders with paint rollers.
Oh, no. No.
Oh, then we bring in the rat, don't we?
Yeah, and other things.
No placebo.
Public Works.
Comment, on the storage. Are we allowed to put stuff into a storage facility, or does it have to be maintained at?
No, we have 2 storage facilities that we rent currently.
So we do have it?
Yeah, we do that. It would be really not, but those are off-site storage. Any of our property and evidence stays with us.
Oh, of course.
But all, you know, bicycles, and you'd be surprised at what we
Dave
collect
has some
over the years. Pardon me?
Dave has some containers.
Yeah.
But I mean, stuff that you have to keep, like you said, for 99 years, after a period of time, can you put that into a, like, we used a facility called Iron Mountain.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
You know,
Yeah,
we put
yeah.
stuff there. It's all cataloged, and we can go there and get whatever we need when we need it and bring it back or whatever.
Yeah, that's in essence what we do with the facilities that we have now. We have 2 of them over on, well, I don't want to say where they're at, but
Yeah, don't.
we have 2 off-site storage
Right.
facilities, but obviously they're not climate controlled. So if anything that's of evidentiary value can't be stored over there because it can be degraded.
Well, that's why we've
Paper
got our
files and the like, we don't have a lot of that anymore because we've moved towards the
Right.
electronic end of things.
This might be a nice thing for the county to think about doing, is creating a storage for all the municipalities along with their own.
I'll tell you what the county
Well, I
has
know the
done.
county's gonna say.
The county has given it all back to us
Right.
because for all major cases and homicides, it all used to be stored by the county. 2 years ago, they made all the communities take it all back.
Sure.
You get
Well, maybe
car
one
seats
day we
and,
will have containers.
could very well be.
And then Dave will have to get a MyJack crate.
We'll have to build a building so we can put those storable, just like they do with boats. You can put them up on racks, put your storage units, stack your
You can't have
units.
containers though, because it has to be climate controlled. They'd have to have perpetual reefer units
Oh,
on them,
my God.
which I believe violates our noise ordinance.
If we build a retaining wall around a noise wall.
Okay, move right along.
I'm sorry.
I guess the only thing I would say is that I think the overall remodeling on this really focuses on improving the overall efficiency inside the existing building. I mean, it is not efficient whatsoever. And I guess the other exciting thing about this is the ability to reclaim about 800 square feet of space inside the building. The atrium was an interesting, or courtyard as they call it, was an interesting idea.
Sure.
It was an old idea that was brought forth from architecture long since gone, but it's a terribly inefficient use of internal space, and climate and HVAC wise, it's a nightmare. So, you know, being able to reclaim that space and integrate it into the overall work area, I think is really an exciting opportunity that beats the heck out of putting an addition on the building or going up with it. So,
Is there anything that has to be done to the you know, the gun range?
No, the gun range will not be touched, and the jail facility will not be touched. Those are two big areas that do not need to be messed with, and the garage storage area.
It just, you know, how often is that cleaned, the actual range?
Well, it's clean, it's thoroughly cleaned semi-annually. We have a professional crew that comes in, and we don't use leaded ammunition anymore. We use lead-free ammunition as much as possible. There are certain calibers we can't get in the frangible lead-free ammunition, but I would say 80 to 85% of everything we shoot in there now is lead-free.
Yeah, that helps, right? Yeah. Eliminates the explosion or fire hazard.
Pardon me?
Does that eliminate the fire hazard from?
Yeah, it doesn't really eliminate the fire hazard. It eliminates the lead hazard.
Right.
Because the gunpowder, the primers, all eliminate, give off lead vapors. And we have a forced fan system there that draws it all out. And even with the leaded ammunition, we had it tested by the Department of Health, and OSHA came out and inspected us at 1.2 and found everything was great. But what we had an accumulation of lead up on the roof of the building where the vents vented out. So that's been cleaned up, and then we moved to the frangible ammunition and lead-free. It virtually eliminates all that. So the health hazard is virtually eliminated.
Okay.
Real quick, there's also a couple of improvements in the 740 building, which is next door, a separate employee entrance on the north side of the building, and then a men's and women's locker room, changing room more than anything else. There's no plumbing that would be added to it, but it gives the telecommunicators an area where they can come to work, change, store their personal items and equipment per shift, and then rotate out at the end of the shift without having to go next door. You know, if they want a shower facility, they can go use the locker room, but it's much more convenient to their workspace than what it currently sets up as right now. So, I guess if the committee is, if the committee feels that this is something that you'd like to consider, what we would suggest is inclusion as a part of the future considerations of the budget discussions that'll come up. We'll talk about funding options. Currently, the two options are issuance of bonds or funding it out of cash on hand and projected revenues or out of fund reserves. The third option is, as Trustee Schultz indicated, we'll also have a further discussion on increasing the sales tax, and we'll have a further discussion on that. That relates to both this project and future capital projects, again, roads, for instance, but also replacement of the Westfield sales tax revenues that, when they sign their agreement, that it will then go into place once Dave & Buster's and the theater are open, and that will take out, could be as much as $1 million out of the sales tax revenue from the inline spaces which Westfield owns. So,
You know, what's the percentage that we're going to have to kick in if and when we ever do the improvements on Lakeview and Fairway?
Dave has a number on that.
Was that about, is that in excess of $10 million, that project?
$2 million engineering and acquisition costs, and about $6 million for construction. $8 million.
And in what percentage of that will be ours?
That is our percentage.
All?
That is our, yeah. That's after a 70% match for them. Some things are not eligible, like utility.
This one's not eligible.
The reason it's a total of $8 million, that's after we pay our 30%, they're paying 70%, but some of these items are not eligible for that 70%. So that is where we ended up, $8 million for the village for that project.
Our exposure.
Ours.
So what's the total project? 15?
3 times that, give or take.
I know, this is gonna be, well, I'm just thinking,
25
there's
million.
another reason to,
Exactly.
you know.
Total projects, 9 million.
And our portion is,
Our portion, I'll give you the breakdown,
just give me a total, is it 8 million for the village?
our portion is 8 million.
Damn.
So we're only getting 2 million in
So
assistance.
the math ends up working out that we're paying 45% and they're paying the remainder.
That's more than 9.
No, it's actually, let me try to explain it a little bit better. There's certain things that are not eligible for their 30% match. Certain items such as utility relocation, some of that is not
Yeah, so we gotta
applicable.
bite the bullet on the whole. All right, you know what? Just, we'll talk about this when, I'm gonna put this, okay, the clock ran out, so.
The one thing, when we do get to talk about how we're going to fund things, there was that Daily Herald study or article that came out several months ago about, the appropriateness of having X number of months worth of reserves. The typical community, I guess, is like 2 or 3 months.
3 months.
And we're in the 10, 11 month, maybe a little less.
Year.
So I guess, I'd like for us to at least discuss that and have the pertinent information on what other communities are doing, what all the financial institutions are suggesting, what the Moody's and those folks are suggesting as an appropriate level.
With respect to maybe lowering it, is that what you're?
Well, yeah, funding some things immediately as opposed to bonding, still maintaining a reasonable reserve. I mean, better than the average.
Well, and remembering that ours is a unique situation because of the lack of a property tax.
Right. Granted, yeah, we could always, times got hard.
Right.
We could implement additional
But you do know
funding.
there's like a 16-month lag on, if we were, isn't it, Larry, isn't it roughly a 16-month lag on property tax if you were to?
Right.
That's
Right. No, understanding all this, I'm just suggesting that we need to just have an open discussion about what the appropriate level of reserve is for this community.
A workshop.
How about charrette?
No, don't say
I'm
that.
sorry.
All right, on that note, is there a motion to adjourn committee at all?
So made.
Motion and a second, roll call.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz? Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda? President Byrne?
Motion.
Yes,
Motion carries, meeting ended. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, happy, well, Hanukkah we passed, but happy Hanukkah and
Kwanzaa.
so on and so forth, Kwanzaa. And peace and prosperity in the new year. Okay, bye.